guys, it's Kelly here, and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we're using some older products. This is Car Show Stamps and Dies, the Euro Classic Stamps and Dies. What is that? The shield layering frames? I can't remember the name of it. And then the star of the show is the diamond plate 3D embossing folder. So we are going to be doing a basically like a metallic technique to kind of bring this thing to life. And I am using it with the cars, but this could also be used for like tool sets. This could be used for any sort of like mechanic things. This diamond plate, this, stamped steel diamond plate is really popular and common. So here, basically what I did was I trimmed a piece of gray cardstock into the size of the folder, which is 5x7. So that way I would be able to get a full embossing, but I knew that I wanted to have these pieces as two separate pieces. And so I didn't want, when I die cut this middle layer out, it to compress the 3D embossing. So I'm die cutting it first, and then that way I can kind of fit everything back together, and then run it through to do the 3D embossing. Now, the embossing itself is really cool, but like as you can see, it looks really cool by itself, but we're just kind of gonna up it a notch. One of the reasons why I'm making this card is because my birthday is coming up. My dad is a week after mine, and my brother-in-law's was yesterday. So we celebrate all of our summer birthdays, typically right around Labor Day. That's what we're doing this year. So I knew I was going to need a couple of cards. And then because I had the extra piece, I'm like, well, I'm just going to make it. And then that way I'll just have it in my stash for, if I need a birthday card later on. So here what I'm doing is I'm just trying to figure out what my layouts are going to be. I call it dry fitting. I do like to kind of lay everything out to see how my designs are going to look. This one in particular does tell you, it does tell you what the cars are. So it's a 1932 Ford Model A, a 1970 Chevy Nova, a 1963 Chevy Corvette, a 1967 Chevy Malibu, and a 1956 Chevy Bel Air. Now, in case you didn't know, Melissa, who is the owner of Honeybee, her dad was a huge car guy. So I'm sure she felt it was very important to put all of those things in there so that people would know what they were. But I grew up in a Ford family, and there is only one Ford in this set. So you better believe that I had to include the Ford because it's the only one that's in there. Not that the other cars aren't cool. I'm just saying. And in my, we'll talk about that in just a second. In my pictures, there's like I have some diamond steel in the background, and that literally I took out of my son's room. So the other new product that I'm going to incorporate, which this one isn't like new this year, but this is the I think it is the Enjoy the Ride, I think is the name of it. But I'm going to use that stamp set as well. So the first way that we can do this to add a little bit to it is I'm using our silver pigment ink, and I'm just very lightly rubbing it over the top, which gives quite a bit of shine. So now I decided that I wanted a little bit more dimension. Like I wanted the plate to be a little like distressed, well-loved. I just thought that adding the little bit of black would help it to have a little more dimension. And so for the actual, like the middle piece, I went all around the edges, and then for this piece that it's cut out of, I went around the edges, but then also on the inside. And for the other piece, I went around the edges as well. So distress inks are made to stay wet longer so that you can emboss with them. So that's something to just keep in mind for the next step if you prefer a cleaner look. So yeah, so we're straight up a Ford family. She's got all these Chevys in here. So my son is a big Ford fan, and my family worked at Ford. So my grandfather worked there, my uncles worked there, my grandmother worked there for a very short stint, and then my mom worked there. Okay, let's go back to the card. So here now, once we have everything inked up, now I'm going to go back in with that silver pigment ink, and I'm just going to kind of like rub it over the top there, which really makes that diamond plate come to life. But if you want something a little bit more dramatic, you can also bring in some silver embossing powder. So for this little one, now remember, if you want a cleaner look, you're going to want to like heat set your distress inking. I couldn't think of the word distress inking beforehand, like your ink blending. You're going to want to heat set that. I wanted it to be a little bit more messy, so I kind of like dipped the edges in and scooped them up. And then anywhere that I feel like it's a little bit too much, I can always knock it off with a clean paintbrush. And this is going to give us kind of like that really shiny silver. The silver of the pigment ink is also shiny, but it's a little bit more muted. Whereas when you do the embossing powder, it is very, very shiny, like very, like chrome-like. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this. Metallics always are the best to heat set because they look like just a little bit of magic. So then once I had those down on there, I wanted to get I wanted it to really be prevalent on the edges. So what you see me doing here is kind of rotating my die cut just on the edge, like tapping the edge into the die pad. And then I will just tap it into kind of like a pile of the embossing powder on some scrap paper. And this is going to add it just to the edges, but it's going to make sure that those edges have that shine all the way around, which I need because I need it to have some contrast to what I plan to do for the background of the piece. So once that is heat set, the other ones, you can do the whole thing. Like it will stick to everything in that pigment ink. But I chose to do them just kind of sporadically. So some of it is just the regular silver pigment ink and just, shiny, but not as kind of in your face, and some of it is the embossing powder. Now, because I don't mind the messier look of having it distressed, I just let it go wherever it wanted to. But if you feel like you have too much, again, utilize that dry paintbrush. So then I'm going to go ahead and stamp these guys down, and I'm using our intense black ink for that. Because I knew that I was going to be coloring with alcohol markers. So I wanted to make sure that I have an ink that's going to work well with that. So I did, because I can't help myself. So I did look these colors up on Google so that I could kind of figure out what the color scheme that I wanted to use was. I knew that the vast majority of my card was going to be more like black, white, and gray. And obviously that's silver. So I did look them up to see, and that is how I chose my colors. This is the rest of the sentiments. I am white heat embossing them on black, using our white pigment ink and some white detail embossing powder. So my mom worked at Ford, and she actually, we were just talking to Peanut about this the other night. So my mom worked at Ford when my dad met her, and actually my dad was a pipe fitter. So he was putting the sprinkler system in there, at one point when they were they dating or were they already married? I can't remember. But anyway, so then they were both working there. He was putting the sprinkler system in and she was just working. My mom worked in the foundry, which meant that she kept very weird hours. But she took the layoff. That's just a side effect of being in a union. Sometimes there's layoffs. So she took the layoff so somebody else could keep working when she was pregnant with my middle sister. So that way, she was getting her maternity leave through the, collecting unemployment. And then she just continued to take the layoff every, as it was offered, and was basically a stay-at-home mom until I was in the 6th grade. So she did have other jobs in between because my dad, being a pipe fitter, was also in a union and he would get laid off in the winter. So then my mom would, pick up. She worked at some retail shops. She worked at Walmart's automotive section. But anyway, once I was in 6th grade, she went back full time, and because she worked in the foundry and basically she she slung engine blocks all day long. My mom had some pipes on her, man. She had some biceps. She was in good shape just from, moving the metal down the line. But so we were always raised to be, as a Ford family. I mean, like, we laugh and joke about it now, but like when I met my husband, he drove a Chevy. He drove a Chevy Silverado. So needless to say, now he has an F-150. But anyway, so my son is just loves all things Ford. Like, so, and over the years, my mom has accumulated a lot of things. So like she had, we jokingly call it her midlife crisis. She bought a Ford Mustang convertible, and I was probably in high school at the time that she bought it, and they still have it. I think this year it'll be 2000 to 25. Yeah, it'll be 25 years old, so it'll finally get historical plates. But man, because like my parents were my daycare for Peanut, as he got older, he would just be in them. He just wanted to play in it. He wanted to listen to music in it. He wanted to take the top up and down. He wanted to wash it and do the windows. And, my parents would just sit out there, with him in the garage while he was, in the Mustang, just hanging out. So she had a lamp, like a Mustang lamp she gave him. It's in his bedroom. And then when we moved into this house, we let him pick his colors. He picked blue, no big shock. And so one of his Christmas gifts was like this huge mural that you put up on the wall that is like a Ford F-150 like driving through the wall. Like, it has all the little grumblings of like the little pieces breaking. And so in addition to that, he has a lot of signs that are in his room, like, genuine Ford parts and, Ford Garage and those things. He also has a neon lamp as well. So when I was trying to take my pictures and I needed the diamond plate stamped, I literally just walked into his room and took one of his signs off the shelf and laid it out in my photo layout. And that worked. So yeah, I mean, I was not ever a huge car person, but over the years, my parents kind of became, car people. But anyway, so with the coloring right now, we're doing all of the coloring with the gray, or the silver. So some of it is a little bit darker than others. With the Ford Model A, it has that engine exposed in the, top. So that's going to be colored all gray, as well as the grille. And then, why can't I think of the word? The hubcaps. Wow. So then for the Chevy Bel Air, which is the one that's in the middle, that one had a white back as well as a white top. So that's why you saw me doing the gray there. And then this one in the bottom is the, I think it's the Chevy. No, that's the Model A. Is it the Chevy Nova? I don't know. I think that's the Corvette. I think it might be the Chevy Nova or the Chevy Malibu. I can't be 100% positive. Because I just told you I come from a Ford family. So anyway, for that one, that one traditionally has racing stripes on it, which is, drawn in here. So those are black, which we're still using those same cool grays. And then for the Chevy Bel Air, white walls were really popular in that time period, which is just like it shows the white, like the side of the tire is white instead of black, whereas the other one, whichever one it is, whether it's the 1970 or the 1967, the white walls were not as popular. So I apologize. Please forgive me. I was just going along and doing my thing, and I think I was a little bit more zoomed in than I normally am. So part of my coloring of this one is a little bit kind of like off camera. I apologize for that. So for this one, because it has the white tail as well as the white top, I chose like a teal combination, which was pretty popular when this car was released. And so I used my BG markers to kind of, get that color. I think it did come out pretty true to what I saw when I did the Googling. And I think that one might be the one I'm going to give my dad. It was funny. My husband came in when I was making these, and the one says "Happy Birthday, Hot Rod." He was like, "Who are you going to give that to? Huh? Your brother-in-law or your dad?" And I was like, I think that's maybe the one that's just going to sit, and I'll use it at a later date. I'm not entirely sure. So for the Ford Model A, I did do some Googling to see like what colors I could use. And one of the colors was called Washington Blue. And I don't know if that's what later became kind of like the Ford Blue. But it is like, it's very similar to, I guess to the Ford Blue, and it also came in like brown and green. It had maybe 5 or 6 colors that it came in. So I did choose the blue. Mine's maybe a bit more on the royal blue side, like more of what you would see for the Ford Blue nowadays. But like, you guys aren't surprised, blue is my boyfriend, and so I did go with that little brighter one. In order to add some depth, I did add that B99 in, but going over it with the B29 kind of does brighten it up a little bit and help it to kind of blend just a little bit better. So, yeah, you know what? Let me just mention, because it's probably... I intend to do this as the premiere since I did not feel well on Monday. And this was the video that I had planned. I just didn't feel good. Sometimes that happens. And thankfully you guys were like, hey, no big deal. We'll catch you on the next one. So the newsletter for Honeybee will go out this evening if it is not already out. But they are going to be having a Labor Day sale for 15% off site-wide Friday through Monday. So just, maybe because tonight is Thursday, maybe you just want to go get all of your things lined up in your cart so that way you're ready when the time comes. So I knew that I had done a card with these before, like with these, and they were like super simple kind of designs, for like more masculine cards. And so I went back and found the video, and I will link it at the end in case you haven't seen it, because it was like 6 years ago. But in that video, I talk about my father, because I was doing them for Father's Day. But it was also the same video where he had a heart attack. And I cannot believe, I felt like that was so long ago, but it was really only like 6 or so years ago. And because I was already, was I already dating my husband at the time? I'm not 100% sure. I may have been already dating my husband at the time. Or maybe I was just divorced and I was not dating my husband. I can't remember entirely, but I know that because I was supposed to do youth group that night, and we were doing like the movie, the outside movie. And I was just like, y'all are on your own. Like, his mom had called and I was like, I'm leaving, bye. And Eric was my counterpart for youth group. So yeah, I can't remember. So here I colored it red, but it didn't really match the photos that I had saw. It was a little bit more tomatoey red. And this is a trick that you can use if you don't have a lot of colors, or you don't have the refills. So the R, like 22, 24, 27, like those are a bit more on the tomatoey red side, but I didn't have a refill for my 27. and I needed it. So instead, I just colored it with my cooler reds, and then I just went over it with a YR04 and it changed it, and that worked out. So here, I have everything kind of laid out how I know that I want to do it, but I wanted to have the shape take up a little bit more space. And so what I did was on a black piece of cardstock, I traced the shape. This one's pretty easy. It's just a lot of straight lines. So I'm just going to fussy cut this out. I lined up the bottom edge with the edge of the paper, and then I went in with my scissors and just cut out this shape. I didn't try to round the corners or anything like that because I find that makes for kind of wonky shapes, even when you don't mean to. And then this is going to give me just like 1/8 of an inch border that is going to help it kind of fill up that space. I'm also going to double mat this because it is, so much smaller. And then these sentiments are just fun. Like you're not old, you're a classic. This one here is from the Enjoy the Ride. You're in mint condition for a vintage model. So this one I thought I was going to do kind of like a half and half, but I didn't really love it. And then, do you remember the peekaboo card? If you watch my channel, I did a couple of days ago. Well, I had these white circles that I had cut out for my peekaboo card that were still sitting on my desk. So I grabbed one of those. And if we are not talking about a true kind of 2013 kind of card design. But it works. It works to break it up and make it more of a focal point. So I did the little banner, I put it on a circle, and you know what? I know that that's something that was done probably 10 years ago, but you know what? It still works. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. So for this one here, the die cut piece was just slightly longer than it was thinner. And so I just trimmed down the sides of my white and put black on each side so that it would be even around the edges. And then all of these I did flat. You could absolutely pop up the vehicles if you wanted. I just adhered mine down flat. This one is that one my husband was teaching me about. This is Happy Birthday Hot Rod. So I kind of stacked those, and I did have to mess around with it, just a little bit to get it where I wanted. And then you guys know we're going to do all the details and stuff like that because I cannot help myself. But yeah, so the sale is 15% off site-wide, which is a really great sale. And then there, of course, will be tons of other Labor Day sales, which I do try to stay on top of. So hopefully I will be able to do that, even though we're having our birthday celebrations, which for me it's a little bit weird, and I don't really know how to feel about the birthday thing with my mom not being here, but I know I could just hear her don't you dare not celebrate your birthday, because if it had been the other way around, if it had been dad who had went, she would still be you need to celebrate your birthdays. Your dad would want you to, and I know she would want us to. So bare minimum, it'll be good to get together and see everybody. So here, I do like to blend in my die cuts, when they're laying over other colors. And then you probably also saw me put a little bit of shadow underneath the card. Underneath the not card. This probably seems super wild to you because it's not like a scene, but I just want you to watch, okay, with this one. So we're going in, we're filling in the grays, and then we're going to extend this out and put the shadow underneath the car. And even though it is not a scene, it does so much to ground the images. And it just changes the way the card looks. Now here, because I had this big expanse in the middle, I realized pretty quickly that my grays were not exactly matchy-matchy. So I did go back in with a warm gray over my cool gray, and that helped it to match quite a bit better, so that it looked like the colors underneath. So sometimes we do have to play around with that just a little bit. So I did the shadow to all of them, and then I did a clear shimmer over the vehicles as well, and then added my white gel pen accents. Nobody's surprised by that. So for the most part, it was on the like the tires and the lights, a little bit, on the maybe the rounded parts of the cars, things like that. And then I didn't add any rhinestones or anything else. I let the silver on that diamond plate kind of be the star of the show. I was really happy with the way that they turned out. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget to shop that honeybee sale tomorrow, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.